if you're building a skyscraper, there's a strict public code. Like, you know exactly what the steel can handle before it bends, right?
Right. I mean, it's mathematically defined. Everyone agrees on the rules.
Yeah, but when you look at how companies use artificial intelligence today, it's like we're building these massive digital skyscrapers, but with, invisible steel.
Which is incredibly dangerous. We are operating in this high-stakes environment where the load-bearing limits of corporate ethics are just, well, they're completely undefined.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We're unpacking this really fascinating framework from CSO and adjunct professor Mike Wilkes. Our mission today is to figure out why companies are deploying AI blindly and how they can actually build an enforceable ethical code.
Yeah, because Wilkes argues there's this urgent need for companies to actively select, adopt, and crucially, publish their ethical principles for AI.
Because ignoring this isn't just a PR problem anymore, is it?
No, definitely not. Wilkes points to some massive real-world cases. I mean, look at the $26 million SolarWinds settlement over their software supply chain.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Or the SEC whistleblower filing by Mudge about Twitter's security failures. And the Joe Sullivan verdict, right? Where a former security executive was actually criminally convicted for covering up a data breach.
Wait, actually held criminally liable. So, yeah, real people are facing prison time and massive fines. You literally can't just wing your corporate governance anymore.
Exactly. Winging it can destroy a company. So if you can't wing it, Wilkes proposes what he calls this try before you buy menu.
A menu for ethics.
Yeah, it's a structured list of 12 ethical principles. Concepts like being fair, robust, safe, accountable.
Okay, but let's unpack that, because picking corporate ethics shouldn't just be like mindlessly clicking accept all on a cookie banner, right?
Right. No, you have to purposefully select them to build an internally consistent compass.
But practically, how does a company enforce, say, accountable? You can't just slap an accountable label on your homepage and call it a day. Wilkes even says ownership of a breach is usually a tangled mess. It's third-party vendors, internal teams, users.
It's extremely ambiguous, yeah.
So how does picking a word off a menu actually fix that ambiguity?
Well, it doesn't fix it automatically,
Hmm.
but it forces the company to define the mechanics of that accountability before a crisis happens. And Wilkes connects this to another principle on his menu, which is valuable.
Valuable. How so?
He argues that technology is basically just an amplifier, right? Like, it scales good outcomes.
But it scales evil or negligent outcomes just as easily.
Exactly. So by explicitly selecting and publishing these guardrails, the company is drawing a line in the sand. If a breach happens, investigators aren't just pointing fingers in the dark.
They actually have a benchmark.
Right. They can audit the failure against the specific public commitments that the company made about how they value and protect data.
I get that for standard IT, but AI feels like a totally different beast. I mean, it doesn't just amplify, it scales things exponentially and often completely invisibly.
Which brings us to two of Wilkes' most critical AI principles, adaptable and transparent.
Right, because AI has to adapt to feedback to be safe.
Yes, but you can't audit or correct an algorithm if its training data and decision-making processes are locked inside some opaque black box system. They have to be open to inspection.
But here is where it gets really interesting, because realistically, these algorithms are closely guarded trade secrets. No company is just going to hand over the keys voluntarily.
No, they usually wouldn't.
And Wilkes explicitly notes that there is virtually no intrinsic incentive for companies to opt into this level of transparency. So why would any board volunteer to publish their AI principles if it just exposes them to scrutiny?
Because the very definition of corporate negligence is shifting right now. Wilkes compares this to traditional corporate ethics, like anti-bribery policies or money laundering regulations.
Oh, right. Decades ago, those weren't standard at all.
Exactly. Today, they are the absolute baseline of doing business. Establishing and publishing an AI ethical compass is rapidly becoming the new standard of care. Society and shareholders are demanding it.
So even if it takes regulatory enforcement to kickstart it, companies need to get ahead of this.
Yeah, if they fail to adopt and publish their principles now, they're going to be totally defenseless when regulators inevitably knock on their door.
So the core takeaway here is that companies can no longer hide behind vague, unwritten intentions. They have to transparently select and publish their ethical rules of the road for AI.
It completely reorients how we measure liability in the digital age.
And for you listening, this is incredibly relevant. Your personal data, your privacy, is sitting squarely in the crosshairs of these boardroom decisions every single day.
Absolutely.
So consider this as we wrap up. Let's say a black box AI scales a harmful outcome, but technically it perfectly followed its opaque training data. When the lawsuits fly, who is ultimately on trial? The machine, the software developers, or the board of directors who failed to establish and publish their ethical boundaries in the first place? Something to think about.